Welcome, dear listener, to the Secrets for a Happy Life podcast, born from my desire to share the knowledge I've acquired on leading a better life, interwoven with diverse experiences from my travels, years of studying psychology, and life lessons. I'm Petra Kmetec-Bitenc, your guide on this journey on rediscovering joy, productivity, and the essence of living a fulfilled life. Today it's going to be a really interesting topic, and we're going to be talking about dating, about relationships, about all the good stuff and what to watch out for and everything. Maybe some juicy stuff also, so be with us till the end. And feel free to ask questions, to maybe share what happened in your life, or if you have some troubles, just please ask and maybe we will be able to answer you.
If I may add, I think, why I believe this topic is so important to address is that we as humans are relational creatures. We develop in relationships, we heal in relationships. And this is a very challenging context quite often because it pushes us into the discomfort. But at the same time, it can be very nurturing. So super important. And I also know that a lot of people, especially people in Dubai, and I think places where there are a lot of expats more than others, people find it quite difficult to actually meet the person and form the kind of nurturing, loving relationships that we are all wired.
Now that you mentioned that it's hard to find somebody who's find the right person, what are the obstacles? What do you think?
$1 million question, $1 million question. Look, I think it depends really on each individual case, but I think a big one for most of the people who struggle is internal, right? So there is something within us that prevents us from actually forming the connection. So there is always something that holds us back. There is some unconscious belief that there is some pain associated with potentially opening up and being vulnerable, as any relationship requires. There could be a fear of rejection, there could be all sorts of fears. So basically, I think this is a very important one to first really looking into yourself, if that's something you struggle with, like exploring what kind of beliefs do you have around relationships, and are they holding you back, and are they true?
Yeah, those are really nice distinguishes. But also, I would add maybe in those big societies when there is so many people around, like how to find the right one, how to choose from all these millions of people that are on the dating scene. And I think you should know first yourself. What am I looking for? Not just, oh, I need a boyfriend or I need a girlfriend, but what am I searching for, so that you are clear with what do you want to have, who do you want to have on the other side. That it's not just, I want to have somebody, but what characteristic do I want them to have, and maybe what is this thing that attracts me? And is this something that I'm searching for chemistry, or I'm searching for long-term stability? Like, I think this is something that also you need to ask yourself when you are on this dating journey. Yeah,
that's a very good point, Petra. And I think, it's really understanding why you're looking for a person. Are you looking for someone just because you can't really be on your own, or because you are at the point in your life where you actually are looking for someone to build your life together with? And I think depending on your why, the kind of qualities and characteristics in the partner will be quite different. And I think 2 points really to mention for people who do actually think about, okay, what do I want in that partner? And that's based on research, based on talking to people. I think one trap is really people put such a long, extensive list, and they expect their partner to meet all their needs. And it's impossible. So you're setting yourself up for failure. And quite often those needs would be very contradictory. So, and women are really good at it. I don't know, what's your experience with working with clients, but they'll put a list of 100 items and they want this guy to be super ambitious and run multiple businesses, yet they want him to be at home at 6 p.m. and be an amazing family man. And like, these things don't work together. I either get one or the other, right? And like, putting that list of contradictory characteristics, you'll never find that person because it doesn't exist. He doesn't exist. And I think the second point is, quite often in those lists that, again, especially ladies tend to create, very often the focus is on some rather superficial qualities. And it could be about looks. Like, there was also some research that I think more than 80% of women are looking for a man who is 2 meters tall, and only 14% of, or even less, of total male population actually is that high. So statistically, that's not going to work. And then fundamentally, it doesn't matter how tall he is or what kind of job he does. What's going to make or break the relationship is, how do you feel next to that person? And I think looking at that list from the point of view of how you are in the relationship, how the partner is in the relationship, how do you feel together, and looking at the dynamics, that's really makes it much more
now when you were talking about lists, I
views.
usually do with my clients, we do a 3-column list. So, but it's not based on achievements or looks or this kind, but on characteristics. Like, what the first column is, what does the person I want to attract needs to have? And this means like that he or she is respectful, it's engaging in the conversation, so they are able to have also deeper conversations, not only some "how are you, okay, good, bye bye," and that they are, I said, respectful and maybe sincere, and those qualities that I really want for them to have. And the second one is those qualities that I would like for them to have, maybe that their looks and all these things that you were talking about. And the third one is what I don't want them to have, like those really hard no's. And I found with people that they have those no's, what they don't want to have. Maybe he or she is smoking or going out a lot, or they don't respect, I don't know, people who are working outside, or cleaners, or some people who are not on their social level. But when they meet somebody, they forget about that. But after a year, 2 or 3, those things really start to bother them. And usually they are the things that they have a lot of arguments around. So I think it's good to have them written down. And when you see that person, and in the first 2-3 months, 5 months, everything is pink, everything is nice, everything is lovely, and these things doesn't bother you so much. But after a while, they will start to bother. And so I think if something bothers you, don't go there, because even if it's so small, if you feel it every day, in the long term, if you think about, if I'm gonna be with that person for the next 50 years. And if this is bothering me every day, I'm gonna get crazy in 50 years, So I think this is also good to have in mind when thinking about what qualities do I want the person that I'm gonna be dating that they have. And this is not about if they are high achievers or if they have, because you can still get there together, I think. It's not something. Also, like, my belief is that asking yourself to be really honest with yourself, am I the person that would attract that kind of a guy or a girl that I want to have? And if you really want to have, like you said, a guy who has, I don't know, several businesses and blah, 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 am I the girl that would be, that kind of a man would want to have me, And I think those are hard truths sometimes. And maybe if a guy is looking that and they want to have like a really top model, would she be the one that would go out with me? And if not, what do I need to do? Do I need to develop myself emotionally, or what do I need to do if I want to have this kind of girl, or then just have some other standards?
Yeah, and I think here is a good question to ask, why do I want that person? Especially, if you meet a guy and he wants to date a top model and you go, okay, I'm going to go to Jumeirah, spend the next few months in a plastic surgery and come out the way he wants. I would have some questions and, but that's an extreme example. I had a couple of other questions pop up for me when you were speaking. So that was really, you were making a lot of interesting points there. And I remember one, and the second one will come back to me now. So I love the point you were making about the third column with all those deal breakers. Now, I think every person on the planet would have certain qualities that would really irritate us, especially if we spend pretty much all day, every day with them, or not even all day, but if they're there every day. And how do you draw a line and see which of those qualities you are willing to put up with and they will not tip you over in the next 2 years, let's say? Or is it just one of those, things that he throws his dirty socks on the floor and okay, you can live with it, So that's the first one. And now I remember the second one, so I'll put it out there before it's gone again. And that was, wait, I just had it. Okay, let's start with
the distinction. I think it's you need to know yourself a little bit more. So if you don't mind picking up the dirty socks, like you said, every day, or you have a mate that is doing that for you, it's okay, come on. But if you really hate smoking and you hate the smell of this or taste of this, then I don't think you will tolerate this in a long run. So I think you need to know yourself. Or also, if you're okay with that he goes out every 2 days with his friends and he comes back at 3 o'clock in the morning, if you're okay with that, okay. But if you're not, then sorry, I'm gonna find somebody else.
Yeah.
And also when we are in the beginning, I would really encourage people to not wear masks. And what I mean by that is, don't pretend like you're somebody else. Because if you see somebody and you think they would like to have this and that kind of a person, and you are pretending you are that kind of a person, but you are not, in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you will start to be yourself. And then people are like really shocked when they say, oh, but he don't like me anymore. Yeah, because you were showing him or her the vision of yourself that it's not you. And he's in love in that vision, not in what is underneath, because you never showed what is underneath. So I think it's good to be honest, to be really honest with, and to just throw everything what you have out. Maybe not in the first date or two, but just to be honest. And if you don't like something, just say you don't like something, and not holding back too much. Because anyway, you're depends. Like if you are searching somebody for just like a short fun, then it's okay. Then you don't have to care about this. But if you are searching for somebody for a marriage that you're gonna go get old together and really have a good life together, then I think this is something you need to consider.
Yeah, that's really some really good points again, and thank you for sharing. And I think a lot of us consciously understand that that's what you kind of have to do, is be yourself and so on. But I think in the early stages of relationships, quite often that happens almost unconsciously, and we're all on our best behavior and we're also quite excited, and so it requires perhaps an even extra effort to bring ourselves to being our true selves. But yeah, so it's great to mention. And I remembered what my second point was. So when you were talking about the fact that you can get there together, wherever that place is. I think that quite often also people almost fall in love with someone's potential, and they think, oh, especially ladies again, like that idea of like, oh, I can make something, whatever they want, out of him. And I guess that's not a very good starting point. I think, from my experience, you kind of need to be happy with what you already get. Otherwise, maybe it's not the right person for you. And I see from Jose, in a perfect world, we would learn to love ourselves before we attempt to love others. Absolutely. Thank you, Jose, for being with us and for your insightful comment. And I think it is a great point. But yeah, I think some of self-love is essential, but I guess there is no final point where you arrive at and then you say, okay, now I'm ready to go out and date. So it's almost, you do some groundwork and then you have to really put yourself in the trying context of a relationship that's going to push all your buttons and make
we
you
learn through relationships, like you said. We learn through relationships, and they are our mirror, and this is the best therapy that we can have, to be in the relationship, because they are really showing us, oh, you need to work on this. It can be painful, but yeah, if we don't take it personally, and if we take it like this is a stepping stone for my growth, then it's okay.
I think those painful moments, and whenever there is conflict in a relationship, it's very important to actually remember why you are with that person, and to remember that actually you love that person and they love you. And even if they piss you off at the moment, it's probably not their intention to just annoy you, and they are dealing with something that's perhaps painful to them as well. So just shifting that perspective and remembering why the two of you are together, move through the conflict and repair any conflict and move on to a place where you are.
I also ask myself if I'm in this kind of situation, or I also teach this to my clients. When you are in a conflict situation and you wanted to just put everything out, ask yourself, what do I want to achieve? So do I want to have a bad relationship afterwards, or do I want to have a silent treatment for next 3 days? Because you can achieve both. And I think if we want to grow, we need to strive for, how can I be better? How can we together be better? And how can we resolve this in a good manner? Because we are all have some baggages from our childhood, from our past relationships. And maybe this conflict isn't about this situation right now, but it's something from way back, and it's just familiar thing and feeling,
and most often it is, right? And then people find it so painful quite often when they are in a relationship and they are experiencing this, maybe they're going through a fight, or there is a situation where they almost feel rejected by their partners. That's often very, very painful, triggering some childhood wounds. And not everyone is aware of the way it plays out in them or in their partner. It's great if you're aware of your own patterns and of your partners, but quite often people are not. And some would just withdraw and, as you said, do the silent treatment. And it's really painful to be on the receiving side of it, but they are not necessarily doing it to punish you, but they just don't have a better mechanism to cope with overwhelming emotions. Then there are some other people who would actually be so hurt that they will try to hurt you in the same way, so you can feel like, oh, they think now the other person will feel what it was like for me, but that's not the experience of the other person. So just again, being mindful of all those potential patterns is a good starting.
Let's go back to dating. So I would ask you, I'm out of this dating world, so I don't have much experience anymore. Where would you go to find somebody that you would like to hang out with or spend the rest of your life? Is it now in this modern world, this more on online, in the apps, or it's still physical world, like real world?
I think, from talking to people and my relatively recent experiences, is both ways exist. I know a lot of people who actually met their future husbands and wives online. And I think around online dating, a lot of people have certain bias. And if you go into online dating thinking that's not going to work and people there are just whatever, fill in the blanks, then it's not going to work. Just don't waste your time, there is a confirmation bias in place. If you go there, have an open mind and thinking, well, it did work for other people. There are a lot of, since you are there, chances are other people who are also normal or whatever you think of yourself are there. So I think if you do go there, keep an open mind, but also keep in mind that there are a lot of people there who are not really there with the best intentions and all sorts of stories. Just be careful, be mindful. And then if you're more of an old school kind of person and you still prefer to meet people in person, then I think a great way to meet people is always through friends, right? So if you do have friends hanging out in similar companies, it's good. People meet others through work. And another good way is really through similar hobbies. And here, just also be mindful. If you're a guy looking to meet a woman, you may want to try out a yoga or Pilates class because you're going to find a lot of women out there. And now if you're a woman looking for a guy, that may not be a good place to look for a man because the ratios are a bit to their favor. So exactly. So if you're looking for a man, you may want to go to the gym where they're lifting weights and whatever they do. So I think that's really my take on that. And I'm not so sure about, meeting people in clubs and bars. I think if you're looking for something, of course, there are always exceptions, but it wouldn't be my immediate choice to go there.
And I think also, I'm a bit older than you are, I would suggest people to just find the interest groups that whatever you are passionate about and just join into, find whatever it is in your neighborhood, in your surroundings, and just join some, club that is doing what you like to do. And maybe through the interest groups, you will find somebody.
Yeah. That's a great way, I think, actually. And I think that's important, going back to our list conversation and, what you're looking for in people. I think it's really important to have someone I think for me, number one is really understanding if you're aligned in terms of your key values in life.
No,
and
that's good. I wanted to
go
there
a little bit of our conversation, but I think we kind of exhausted the list of places to go. But I think it is important to make sure you're aligned on key values. And then it's very important to understand you are going into similar direction. You want similar things in life. And, just a few examples that come up for me is, if one partner is really keen on having kids and the other one is absolutely not interested, then that's going to be a deal breaker in the end of the day. But these are often overlooked in the beginning. Or sometimes for some people, religion is a big issue. So understanding, those, or especially when you meet people in places like Dubai or, where there's big concentration of expats, one may be absolutely sure that in 2 years they want to move back to their home country and the other partner will have a different view. So those kind of things, and understanding that you are both moving into similar direction and you want the same things in life, are quite important. And I think the third one is really certain degree of flexibility. Because if you're with someone who is really, really rigid and it's my way or the highway, you're not going to get far in that relationship.
Because you will always be the one who is pleasing others and nothing is going to be your way. So, I wouldn't go there.
To your topic of the videos on how to be miserable, that's exactly that, yeah. And then there's going to be a lot of resentment, right? And some people do that. Yeah. They're like,
and if you're resentful and you are miserable, that leads to diseases, and you don't want to do that. So be mindful in the beginning where you want to go, what kind of values you want to see in other people, also some interests or hobbies. And I think it's nice to have at least one hobby that it's in common, that you can do together, that it's not like you live really separate life and you just see yourself in the morning by breakfast and in the evening. And I don't think this is a good life, but maybe for some this is okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's good to have something in common, and it's good to have separate interests.
You complement
well,
each other.
Have a bit of autonomy. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm mindful of time, because this is an interesting topic and a very broad one. But you know what I wanted to also cover briefly is, quite often people come to us, I'm sure they do come to me, I'm sure they come to you with a similar thing, when they repeat similar pattern in their relationships and they recognize that the pattern is not really healthy and it's not making them happy. But one after the other, the relationship, the name of the person changes, appearance is slightly different, but the way they feel in that relationship is exactly the same. And quite often they are miserable. So I think this would be an interesting one.
But that's what's going on there. Another 1 hour for that. But I would just go for like a clue, like something that we can discuss then later on, some in the future. When we fell in love and we feel this chemistry, the chemistry is not, I wouldn't say it's actually totally good. Because chemistry is only familiarity, and if you grew up in an environment that it wasn't too healthy, this is what your body is used to and your nervous circuits are used to. And when you meet somebody that brings you back in your subconscious mind into those feelings from your childhood, then you will feel this chemistry, like you know that person for 100 years and you really click together. But this can be tricky, and this can always lead you to the same circuit, like you said, and you end up in a bad relationship. And then I have clients when they find somebody that is really nice and it's really okay and it's really respectful and loving and everything, and they say, but I don't feel no chemistry, this is not love. But I said, maybe this is the right one,
Yeah, or they would say it's boring.
It's not drama.
It's like, I'm not sure. And I'm like, well, it's just not familiar. And you can always make unfamiliar familiar, and the other way around. If you're like, okay, I've been in this type of relationship now 3, 4, 5, whatever times, and I'm tired, it breaks my heart every time, I'm miserable, etc. Well, it's very familiar, as you said. That's why we keep coming back to that. And that's why people stay in abusive relationships. There are people staying in relationships where they're physically abused. And that is familiar. And it's familiar on such a deep subconscious level that when they chose that partner in the first place, maybe they were super nice in the first months or two. And they could say, well, it's nothing like what I experienced in my childhood. But then eventually it comes out and they are back in the same feeling. And perhaps, in early years for them, love was very closely linked to being hurt. And that's what they keep replaying. But it is possible to change that link and make what was familiar unfamiliar and replace it with what you want. And it's not as dramatic. It may not feel as such a strong chemistry, but it's a very different feeling, and it's perhaps more healthy for your nervous system.
So I would cover this also in some next discussions, because I think it's a really important topic also, how to get out of this and how to set new standards and how to recognize all this stuff. And for today we forget to talk about red flags and green flags and everything. But I think our time is running out. Do you want to add something more, some tips for the viewers?
I think we can wrap up here. I just want to end with the fact that if you are not happy with your current relationships, it is possible to change that. If you're not happy with the patterns you've been living your entire life, again, change is possible. There is no magic pill. It's a process. It's not always pleasant process, but it is possible, and it is so important for your overall life experience, because as I said in the beginning, we are relational creatures. We are wired for connection.
Thank you everyone for watching. Come back next Monday.